After abandoning my daughter for 8 months, my ex-husband and his wife now demand custody. My ex-husband and his new wife suddenly decided they wanted custody of my daughter after leaving her behind for 8 months. I am 33 years old, and I was married to Peter, who is 39, for 8 years. A year ago, our marriage ended when he admitted he had been cheating on me for 3 years with his ex-girlfriend from college. I was blindsided, completely knocked off my feet. We had a 4-year-old daughter together, and I could not wrap my head around the fact that he had been sneaking around with another woman while we were raising a child. But the truth was the truth, and our marriage ended right there. I made up my mind that I would take care of my daughter alone. A few months after our divorce was finalized, Peter married his mistress, Mandy, who was 38. I did not hear about their wedding from him. I found out through mutual friends. After the divorce, we had no reason to keep in touch, so we just didn't. I fought for full custody of my daughter, and I got it. Peter was only allowed to visit her on weekends, and even then, only under my supervision. Then, after he married Mandy, he stopped coming to see her at all. At first, I thought it was strange, but eventually, I realized it was a blessing. No more awkward weekends where he pretended to be a devoted father while I had to bite my tongue in the next room, resisting the urge to throw him out. During our divorce process, he visited a few times, and I let him because my daughter seemed happy around him. But when he stopped showing up altogether, I did not reach out. I figured that was his choice, and frankly, I was fine with it. It has been nearly a year since the divorce was finalized, and if I am remembering right, the last time I saw Peter was about 8 months ago. Since then, my life has revolved around work and taking care of my daughter. That is all that matters to me. Then, last weekend, Peter appeared at my doorstep with no warning. When I opened the door, I assumed he had come to see our daughter, but instead, he told me he needed to talk to me. That caught me off guard. We had not spoken in almost a year. But I let him speak, and that was when he told me something unbelievable. He said Mandy planned to take me to court if I did not give them full custody of my daughter. She believed that because I was a single mother, I could not give her the same life they could, and she was convinced that I was keeping my daughter from having a better future. According to her, this was neglect, and she had the right to take me to court over it. So Peter stood there, looking me in the face, and told me to hand over my daughter immediately. He claimed they would have the legal paperwork done soon anyway, since they believed I was not fit to raise her alone. The second he said that, I lost my temper. I slammed the door in his face and told him to get lost unless he wanted me to call the police. The nerve of him, to disappear for nearly a year and then show up demanding my daughter as if she were a piece of furniture he had left behind. I was not going to stand there and listen to it. I was not even slightly worried about whatever legal threats Mandy was making. There was no basis for them. A court would never take my daughter away just because I was raising her on my own. That was ridiculous. But what did worry me was Peter coming back into our lives, stirring up emotions in my daughter after I had worked so hard to help her move on. I never told her the truth about why he left. I just let time do its job. Now he was back, and I could not let him reopen that wound. There was also something unsettling about the way he spoke. He acted like what he was saying was completely reasonable, as if he truly believed I would just hand over my daughter without a fight. The way he saw nothing wrong with his demands sent a chill down my spine. I did not want him anywhere near me. So, for my peace of mind, I packed up our things and moved back in with my parents. At least there, I would feel safe. My daughter's nanny would also get a few days off, which was a small bonus. 2 days after Peter reappeared, I settled into my parents' home, hoping that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. 2 days ago, he showed up at their house too. Of course, he knew this was the only place I would go. But this time, I was not alone. I had my mom and dad beside me, and I felt more than ready to stand my ground. My daughter was asleep upstairs, my mother watching over her, so I did not have to worry about her hearing anything. I was free to say exactly what I wanted. Peter looked frustrated. The first thing he told me was that they would not be taking me to court after all. They could not, even if they wanted to. But then he went on to say that he still thought it was unfair that I had taken away his rights to our daughter just because he had cheated. He said the real reason he had come back after all this time was that he and Mandy felt like something was missing in their lives, specifically, my daughter. He said that even though Mandy was not my daughter's real mother, she had met her plenty of times while they were sneaking around behind my back. Whenever Peter had taken my daughter out, he would bring her to see Mandy. So in their minds, they had already been acting as a family. Mandy, he said, had been convinced she would have been a great stepmother if only I had given her a chance. Then Peter started complaining that I had set him up to lose custody from the beginning. He said I knew he would never get joint custody because our daughter was still young and because he had cheated for 3 years before confessing. He admitted that his demanding job also played a big role in it. He worked long hours and traveled often, which meant he did not have the time to raise her. But somehow, he still tried to make it sound like I had done something unfair. He even argued that Mandy should have been allowed to take care of our daughter, even though I barely knew her. His lawyer had fought for visitation rights, and that was the best he could get. But none of that was my fault. He had destroyed his own chances of joint custody. His cheating had played a massive role in the court's decision. And when the divorce was finalized, he did not even try to fight for his daughter. He just accepted it and moved on. Now, all of a sudden, he wanted to blame me for how things turned out? Then he told me that he and Mandy just wanted a chance to reconnect with our daughter. He asked me to reconsider because he believed it would be good for her in the long run. He even warned me that one day, she would ask why I had kept her from her father, and I would regret not letting them have a relationship now. It was pathetic. Peter wanted me to let them back into her life, to fix a mistake they had made. He tried to convince me that despite everything, he had always been a good father, and Mandy desperately wanted to see my daughter again. But as I stood there, listening to him, I knew I could never trust them again. This was the man who had lied to me, betrayed me, and left his daughter behind for months without a second thought. And Mandy had been right there beside him, playing along. Now they wanted me to believe they had changed? That they deserved another chance? No. I told Peter that it was too late. He had been gone for too long. Our daughter had moved on, and she was not his anymore. For 8 months, he had been missing in action, and I had done the hard work of raising her alone. I was not going to undo all of that just because he suddenly decided he wanted to play father again. Then I told him to leave. I shut the door in his face. That was 2 days ago. Since then, he has been texting me nonstop, begging me to reconsider. He keeps telling me that our daughter needs him as much as she needs me. He warns me that one day, she will grow up and resent me for not letting him be part of her life. Now I do not know what to think. Am I doing the right thing by keeping them away? Or am I making a mistake? I had a long conversation with my parents about everything that had been on my mind. They did not hold back. They made it clear that Peter was a terrible person who had shattered my life and ruined any chance I had at trusting someone in a relationship again. He had lied to me, betrayed me, and wasted years of my life all while pretending to be a good husband. And for what? So he could sneak around with someone from his past? I guess our marriage just was not enough for him. It has been 2 days since I first shared my story, and almost everyone who responded told me the same thing: do not let him back into my life. Some even suggested I get a restraining order against him. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Peter is not the kind of guy to walk away easily, and I had a gut feeling this was not the last time he would show up. So, if he came back again, I needed to be prepared. I already reached out to my lawyer, and we started the process of terminating his parental rights altogether. It is obvious to me now, he does not deserve to be a father. What kind of dad disappears for nearly a year without a single call or visit, then suddenly decides he wants his child back like she is some kind of lost property? He cannot be trusted. I know that better than anyone. And honestly, I do not even know what he was doing during those 8 months when he completely ignored our existence. For all I know, he could have been on vacation, enjoying his new marriage, pretending his old life never happened. And now, suddenly, he expects me to welcome him back like nothing ever changed? That is not how life works, and it is sure as hell not how my life works. I blocked him on everything. The last few messages he sent made me sick. He tried to twist the story, acting like I was the bad guy, like he was the victim who had been unfairly separated from his daughter. He completely ignored the fact that he had been the one who walked away. He was acting like I was some kind of villain, keeping him from his child, when in reality, he had abandoned her without a second thought. I cannot believe I even considered giving him another chance. Seeing him again must have thrown me off balance because, for a moment, I actually thought about what he was saying. I am realizing now that I am not handling this as well as I thought I was. I cannot afford to let my emotions get the best of me again. So, I am going to take the advice people gave me and look into therapy. If nothing else, it will help me move forward, and maybe it will stop me from overthinking everything. At least this way, something positive can come out of this whole mess. 3 days have passed since my last update, and this morning, Peter sent me an email. I have to be honest, it completely threw me off. Even by his standards, this was messed up. I do not know what kind of game he and Mandy are playing, but whatever it is, I am glad I already have my lawyer involved. Because the things he said in that email? They were insane. He told me that after our divorce was finalized, Mandy did not want him to have any contact with me. So, he made the decision to give up custody of our daughter and focus entirely on his new marriage. He explained that back when they were in college, they had broken up because she was too focused on family, and he wanted someone with bigger ambitions. But as they grew older, they both changed. When they met again at their reunion, they realized they had made a mistake by separating in the first place. That is when they started their affair. Apparently, Mandy left her boyfriend for him, and Peter wanted to tell me, but by the time he built up the courage, I was already pregnant. So, he just kept putting it off. The longer he waited, the harder it got. Eventually, Mandy started feeling attached to our daughter too, even though she was the woman he was cheating on me with. Everything just got complicated, so he let it drag on for 3 whole years. Then, one day, it hit him what he was doing was wrong, and if he did not fix it, he would be living a lie forever. So, he finally told me the truth, and that was the end of our marriage. After the divorce, he let go of his parental rights because he wanted to be the perfect husband to Mandy. But here is the kicker. After all that, they eventually realized Mandy still wanted a family, but she was too old now to have a baby without major health risks. So, they came up with a brilliant idea. Rather than trying for a child of their own, why not just take mine? That is why he showed up at my door that day. When he saw that his threats did not work, he switched to guilt-tripping me. That did not work either. So now, his last option was to come clean and hope that I would be understanding. He told me Mandy had always seen herself as my daughter's stepmother. When they were sneaking around behind my back, whenever Peter took our daughter out, he would bring her to see Mandy. In their minds, they were already acting as a family. Now that they realized they could not have kids of their own, they wanted to go back to that, to pick up where they left off. This was their plea to me, to let them have the family they always wanted, just for Mandy's sake. I mean, I have to give it to them. It takes a special kind of audacity to send an email like that to the woman whose life you wrecked. They cheated on me for 3 years, including while I was pregnant, and now they expect me to do them a favor? To think about their happiness? To let them have a relationship with the child they tossed aside like an old toy? They could have adopted. They could have hired a surrogate. But no. Their brilliant solution was to try and intimidate me into giving up my own child because now, all of a sudden, they realized they wanted one. Like, this is my daughter we are talking about. Not some object they can claim whenever it suits them. I always knew Peter and Mandy were out of their minds, but this? This is beyond what I thought they were capable of. I sent that email straight to my lawyer. There is no way I am letting them anywhere near my child. If I had even 1 ounce of doubt before, it is completely gone now. I am just relieved that my daughter is still too young to understand any of this. Because, honestly, I can barely make sense of it myself. If this were happening to someone else, I would be dying to know what on earth was going through Peter and Mandy's heads when they came up with this plan. Because I am sure they did not just casually come up with this. No. This was something they planned out. This was strategic. But right now, I do not care about their twisted logic. All I care about is keeping my daughter safe. Because after that email, I have no doubt in my mind these people are dangerous. When it comes to my daughter, I know she has everything she needs right now. I am her mother, and I am enough for her. Maybe one day, I will meet someone new, and she will have a father figure in her life again. But for now, I am all she has, and that is more than enough. And yet, these two people, who abandoned her for nearly a year without a second thought, suddenly think they have the right to tell me I am not a good enough mother? They did not care about her before, but now that it suits them, I am the bad guy for keeping her away? The sheer nerve of it makes my blood boil. I told them to leave. I had a job to get to, I had responsibilities, and I was not going to waste my time standing there arguing with them. But Mandy? Oh, Mandy decided that throwing a full-blown tantrum in the middle of the street was the best way to handle the situation. She actually sat down right there on the pavement like a stubborn child and announced that she would not move until I let her see my daughter. I asked Peter to deal with his wife, to get her up and out of my way. But instead of doing the sane, rational thing, he sat down right beside her. At that moment, I did not know whether to scream or laugh. If I had been in a better mood, I might have found the entire thing hilarious. But I was not. I was angry. And, more than that, I was exhausted. My dad, thankfully, had had enough. He went back inside, called the cops, and let them handle it. All we had to do then was wait. Even when the police arrived, Peter and Mandy would not stop arguing. They actually tried to claim that I was depriving my daughter of a happy life. As if they were the key to her happiness. As if her life was somehow incomplete without them in it. That word, deprived, really set me off. Because the truth is, I am doing everything I possibly can for my daughter. I am providing for her, raising her in a stable home, giving her the love and care she needs. She is safe with me. She is happy with me. And she does not need them. If anything, keeping her away from Peter and Mandy is probably the best thing I could do for her. Who is to say she would even be safe with them? For all I know, they could just take her and run. They have already shown me that they have no sense of morality, no real concern for anyone but themselves. Why should I trust them now? And I told them that. I told them exactly what I thought of them. But even then, they did not back down. They had the audacity to claim that I was the one with a personal vendetta, that I was keeping them away out of spite. And you know what? Maybe I do have a vendetta. And maybe it is personal. But I think that is fair. They ruined my marriage, shattered my trust, and walked away without a care in the world. And now they want to waltz back in and play house with my daughter? Absolutely not. The arguing continued until the police finally removed them from the property. And even as they were being taken away, they still did not get it. They did not apologize. They did not show an ounce of regret. Instead, they threatened me. They swore they would be back. They insisted they would not let me keep them away from their daughter anymore. Hearing that shook me. Up until that moment, I had been angry. But after hearing those words, I started feeling something else. Fear. I could not take any chances. I had already planned on getting a restraining order, but now, I was going to make sure it happened immediately. I hate to admit it, but their behavior rattled me. It was ridiculous, yes, but it was also unnerving. So now, I am doing everything I can to remove them from our lives for good. I have made my decision. I will not allow them near my daughter again. And on top of that, I am moving. Peter knows my old address, and that is enough to make me uneasy. I cannot live in a place where he might just show up whenever he feels like it. I need a fresh start. So, I did it. I moved. Now, Peter has no idea where I live, and that brings me a massive sense of relief. I also managed to get the restraining order filed. And, most importantly, I officially have full custody of my daughter. The last few weeks have been stressful, but I can finally breathe again. I have no idea what Peter and Mandy are up to now, and frankly, I do not care. I told my friends I do not want to hear anything about them ever again. I do not want anyone giving them information about me, either. They are out of my life. Permanently. That is all that matters. The past few weeks have been tense. Peter would not stop messaging me, using new numbers every time I blocked him. Mandy started spreading ugly rumors about me because of course, she did. They were clearly trying to wear me down. But it did not work. They lost. And now, I am done. My daughter is safe. I am safe. And that is all that matters. She does not need them. And neither do I.